a profile of David Weprin, the Democratic candidate, and they quoted him as saying, quote, "We didn't talk about Abraham the patriarch at the dinner table. We talked about Abraham the Democrat." And there's this whole little story about how they basically worshipped Abe Beame, who was a former Democratic politician in New York, rather than Abraham in the Bible. And there are a lot of religious Jews in that district. They voted overwhelmingly against Weprin, who himself is Jewish and religious. Now, why? Part of it is that stupid idea of Abraham the Democrat. I want to tell you, there are a lot of people, and it's not just Jewish people. I think there are a lot of Catholics who are, it's just sick and tired of this idea that somehow being a Catholic commands you to be a liberal on economic policy, commands you to be left-wing, commands you to support various left-wing causes. And there are people in every religious denomination. This idea that liberalism has become a new religion, that was one of the things people voted against. That people voted against when they voted yesterday.
Among those voters, Republican candidate Robert Turner was winning by a 71-22 margin for those who care about Israel. Wow. Only 22% of Jewish voters approve of President Obama's handling of Israel. Ed Koch, the Democrat, former New York mayor, endorsed Mr. Turner because he wanted to send a message to the president about his anti-Israel policies. Dan Senior continues, "This is a preview of what President Obama might face in his re-election campaign with a demographic group that voted overwhelmingly for him in 2008. And it could affect the electoral map given the battleground states such as Florida and Pennsylvania and Ohio with significant Jewish populations. In another ominous barometer for the Obama campaign, its Jewish fundraising is deeply eroded. One poll by McLaughlin and Associates found that Jewish donors who donated to Mr. Obama in 2008, only 64% have already donated or plan to donate. Oh, if you're losing a third of your customers year to year or cycle to cycle, wow. The Obama campaign's launched a counteroffensive, including a high-level Jewish outreach director and sending former White House aide David Axelrod and Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz to reassure Jewish donors. The Obama team told the Washington Post that its Israel problem's a messaging problem. Yeah, it's messaging when you leave Benjamin Netanyahu in the basement of the White House. That's messaging. 1967 borders, that's a big message. Message of doom. They say that with enough explanation of its record, the Jewish community will return to the fold in 2012. Here's an inventory, writes Dan Senior, of what Mr. Obama's aides will have to address. February 2008, when the running for president, then Senator Obama told an audience in Cleveland, "There's a strain within the pro-Israel community that says unless you adopt an unwavering pro-Likud approach to Israel, then you're anti-Israel." Likud had been out of power for 2 years when Mr. Obama made that statement. At the time, his country was being led by the centrist Kadima, government of Ehud Olmert, Zippy Livni, and Shimon Peres. You've got the audio of the conference. I'll come back to that in a second. July 2009, Mr. Obama hosted American Jewish leaders at the White House, reportedly telling them that he sought to put daylight between America and Israel. Quote, "For 8 years during the Bush administration, there was no light between the United States and Israel, and nothing got accomplished," he declared. September 2009, his first address to the UN General Assembly, President Obama devoted 5 paragraphs to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, during which he declared to loud applause that America does not accept the legitimacy of continued Israeli settlements. March 2010, during Vice President Joe Biden's visit to Israel, Jerusalem Municipal Office announced plans for new construction in the part of Jerusalem. The president launched an unprecedented weeks-long offensive against Israel. Mr. Biden very publicly departed from Israel. April 2010, Mr. Netanyahu pulled out of the Obama-sponsored Washington Summit on nuclear proliferation when it became clear that Egypt and Turkey intended to use the occasion to condemn the Israeli nuclear program, and Obama would not intervene. March of 2011, Mr. Obama returned to the habit of urging Israelis to engage in self-reflection, urging them to search their souls. May 2011, State Department issues a press release declaring that department's number 2 official, James Steinberg, would be visiting Israel, Jerusalem, and the West Bank. In other words, Jerusalem is not part of Israel. I mean, it just goes on and on. Mo in Detroit. Hello, Mo. It's great to talk to you.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I've been listening for a while.
Thank you. What do you think?
All right. I mean, something I've noticed, you were talking about how this may be a shift of Jewish American voters, away from the Democratic Party, which is basically what the Jews bought and paid for here for a long time. And something I've noticed is that I found amongst Orthodox Jews, particularly in the Midwest, this happened a long time ago. I mean, I'm an Orthodox Jew. Everyone I know in my community wouldn't consider voting for a Democrat, with rare exceptions. And I think this is just slowly starting to spread as, Obama's showing how the Democratic Party's leftist roots really does not have Israel's best interest at heart.
They don't. I mean, does anyone not know that? I mean, honestly, not know that in their hearts?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's, before Obama, they'd make, maybe lip service towards, we have to stand with our allies. But, I mean, if you look at their core base in the far left, there's no love for Israel there. There's nothing but envy. So, everyone knew it was going to rear its head. And I think now their chickens are coming home to roost, as they say.
Yeah, they do. They say it in some churches in Chicago. Thank you, Mo. Eliav in Cleveland. Hello, Eliav.
Yes, hello.
How are you? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, Eliav.
Eliav.
So the point that I want to make is that we're in a very dangerous time. I'm an Israeli-American, and I can tell you that the narrative, the geopolitical narrative today, has shifted from whether or not Israel's policy is right or wrong, whether the occupation is right or wrong. The narrative has shifted to one of which the contenders for legitimacy or delegitimization of Israel are fighting. And that's a very, very dangerous arena to find Israel in. And this is the time in which Israel really does need the United States' support. This is a time in which the sovereignty of Israel is being questioned. And that does not happen to other nation states around the world today. And that's a very unique position. And we really, really need Obama's strong support. And the Jews smell it. They smell it. And they feel it. And in 2012, they're going to express it.
Because they're not going to get it. They're not going to get that support. It is not in the president. You can't go to Jeremiah Wright's church for 20 years and emerge a strong supporter of Israel. Can't be done.
Right, and the reason why it's so dangerous is and why it's going to be so pronounced is because when you're talking about legitimization or delegitimization, you're not talking about left-wing or right-wing politics, whether it's labor movement or Likud movement in Israel. It's not about policies anymore. It's about the very existence of the state. And that's where you're going to get a unified voice in the Jewish community advocating for Israel's best interest. And that's going to be expressed in an overwhelming support for any opposition to Obama.
Do you think that Josh Mandel rides to the Senate in Ohio on that sentiment?
I think Josh is a great guy, and I think he's going to ride to the Senate on other merits as well. I think that Sherrod Brown's classic, Democrat, slick union talk, pro-union, anti-business behavior is going to cause Josh Mandel to be the choice for that senatorial seat. So I wish Josh a lot of good luck. I know Josh, and I think he's going to win.
JoshMandel.com. Thank you, my friend.
SecularStupidist.com. Conservative.com. RightOsophy.com.